Welcome to Peeves and Peeves.
Dang, I could have started so much better.
Oh, man. You want to go? Want to try again?
No.
No, let's try again. I want to hear yours. We'll judge if it's better or not. Pressure's on now.
Go ahead. You have to start the episode.
Hello and welcome to Peeves and Okay. Thank you. Well, this is
It's Indiana Jones, right?
Yeah, that's but the Indiana Jones theme song was done by John Williams, who also did Star Wars theme song, which
Nobody also did Superman.
You know what else he did?
Movie of that.
Jaws.
What? Anyway, yeah. Well, so this is
boy howdy.
Usually a podcast where we ask each other questions, talk about what's annoying us each and every week. However, we decided to do something a little bit different this time. We're going to have a special segment that I'm referring to as Spotlight, Peeves and Q's Spotlight, about the movie, which apparently exists.
Yeah, it's a movie about the journalist who exposed the Catholic priest molestation scandal.
Oh, was this recent?
Oh.
Yeah, it won an award.
What Academy Award.
Nice. I should watch it. Okay.
You should do a commentary to it.
We should.
No.
That's a dark commentary.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how... No, nothing about this is funny. So we decided to do a special episode called Spotlight about Star Wars today.
The War of the Stars.
The War in the Stars.
Oh, Star Wars.
Does it go where they have a journey through the stars? No, that's one of the other... No, never mind.
That's to the center
Wow.
of the
I'm
Earth.
thinking something else.
Yeah, you're thinking of the other song. All right, so we have some opinions on Star Wars, don't we?
I sure do.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, do so.
Is it about Star Wars?
Who is the Star Wars?
Wow.
All back.
I hate you more than life itself.
I love the fact that
I hate me more than life itself, too.
Not gonna lie, guys. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
accurate.
It's decent.
It's
okay.
Does
its
its job.
impact and its cultural influence is astounding.
I mean, I suppose.
No, it is.
Well, if you watch...
Undeniably, the way that
It's okay. You believe what you want to believe. I'll
no,
believe what I want to believe.
no, this is objective. This is not me. This is not my opinion. This is actual fact.
I'm trolling.
Okay, just making sure. I don't know.
Although, if you watch South Park, it's also the reason that Trump's the president.
Star Wars?
That's a stretch, but maybe
Actually, I don't think it's as much of a stretch. I mean, they take it to an extreme, but actually there is some merit to this whole, like, remember when things were great? Yeah, remember when Star Wars was great? Let's do that again.
The problem I have there is that we recently had a great Star Wars movie. Very
We
recently.
did.
So if there's this idea that
Yeah.
Star Wars used to be
Back
good
in 2003.
Stop.
That was a
Please
great
stop.
Star Wars.
1980...
There was never a movie of Star Wars in 2003. There was never a Star Wars movie in 2003.
Okay.
It wasn't.
There was one in 2002, and there was another one in 2005.
Whatever.
Okay. Anyway, Star Wars. Somebody talk about Star Wars. Who wants to go first?
Oh,
You had a
boy.
question. No, I'm sorry.
It was a joke,
It was
yeah.
a stupid joke. I'm sorry.
Hey, it was not stupid. It was great.
No,
But
it
for
was
realsies
stupid.
question,
Mm-hmm.
are we sticking to the new Star Wars or the franchise?
We are going to talk about all of Star Wars. That includes the original trilogy, the prequels, and the most recent movie,
Boy.
as much as we can.
Can we also talk about the games?
We can talk about whatever we want, yeah.
Do we
Can
want
we
to go
talk about the
chronologically,
ornaments?
starting with the old trilogy?
We can. We could also just talk in general about it, but I think in order to have some form of structure.
Well,
that
to
would
see
make
where
sense.
everybody is.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Who's
who has seen what?
all of them?
How about
Or
this?
what have you seen?
How about this? Origin stories. How did you get started in Star Wars and all that?
Good question. What's yours?
Well, I don't remember ever having seen the original trilogy because my dad was such a huge fan that he just indoctrinated it to me when I was a child.
Yeah.
And so I just always had Star Wars in my life. I don't remember ever learning that small creature was Yoda.
Yeah, right. That was just in utero. Like,
Yeah, it was I just know that. So when I was able to watch it critically as a younger adult, I was able to be like, oh, this is how they did all that, and oh, they made all these decisions, but I just knew of them because of life. And so I ended up seeing every Star Wars movie in the theaters, though, because of the 90s special editions that they produced in theaters, which, as terrible as the special editions ended up being compared to the
The
originals.
ones in the 90s weren't too bad. They weren't before the CG fiascos.
Yeah, the home video releases where they just...
So how much does it kill you that you were named after a character in Star Trek and not after...
I mean, I like my name, so it doesn't, like, eat me up, but if I would have had a chance to be named...
You would love to be named Luke.
Named Han Solo.
Yeah.
Jar Jar.
Oh, he was born before
And here we
that
go.
abomination.
I changed my name to Jar Jar now. He called me
Mr. Binks.
Jar Jar
Yeah.
Binks. So of course, when I was younger, and my dad told me they were making new Star Wars movies in the end of the '90s, I was super stoked about it. Everyone was. And then it came out, and being a child, I was like, "Yay! I just saw new Star Wars. That was awesome. It had to be awesome, right? It was more Star Wars." And then the second and the third, which I was excited for. And then after the third movie came out, the third of the prequels, a few years later, I started to actually develop as a person and think critically about things and realize, sorry, Joe, these movies are not great in any way, but the originals were. And so it was kind of like a weird looking back at my childhood and being like, oh, this thing I loved is not actually that good. That's weird. And then, of course, when they announced they were making episode 7, like I was a kid again, like walking around stores and seeing like, walking around stores. I worked at a store and we put out toys and I was like excited to walk through the toy section because like Stormtroopers and Kylo Ren and everything were being displayed and I was like, Star Wars is in stores again. I just feel like I had a huge smile on my face whenever like the theme song would play on the radio and they were advertising it or whatever. Of course, I loved the movie, so that was my origin story. Who else wants to go?
We'll go around.
JoJo?
No.
We're not calling you that. Sorry, go ahead.
You can't, because I don't know who you're talking to if you say that.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Jojo Binks.
Yes.
Wow.
I didn't think you had that low of an opinion of me, but okay.
Wow.
No, I suppose I'm the horribly uncomedic tag-along to the adventure of this podcast.
We did no intros, by the way. to this episode.
Oh, yeah.
No, we don't need to. It's
Too
fine.
late. They know.
Your origin story is your intro.
I feel like if they're listening to a Spotlight episode, they
They know who we
It's
are.
just going to go up on the regular feed, so it's like if they just tune in, the most recent episode is this one.
Well,
But
go back.
anywho,
Yeah,
Start
go back.
over.
Listen to other episodes are all
Return to start.
my origin with Star Wars is when I was a kid, my dad and grandparents and cousin were watching episode 1 in the living room, and I just happened to walk downstairs and sit at the end of the couch right as Darth Maul entered.
Ooh, that's a good.
And I
Duel of the Fates, great song.
and I was a child,
Yeah.
a skittish child, terrified. So I went back upstairs.
Try again later.
That night, I had a nightmare where Darth Maul tried to kill me, and I fought him off with the Digimon stuff. But that's besides the point.
If
Someone
anybody,
please,
I was
do
going to
some
say a fan
fiction
fiction. If
of
anybody
that.
has like fan art of that, like Jordan fighting off Darth Maul with Digimon characters, I love that.
But anywho, much later, again, the original, or the prequel trilogy came out, which I was never that into, but then episode 3 came out, and I watched it, and I am
That's a weird jumping on point.
I am a fan of tragedy.
Yeah.
So seeing the descent of Anakin Skywalker made me think, and of course I was a child, so like I didn't understand the shortcomings of the film. I was like, yeah! And so I got into Star Wars and I watched the originals and I was like, ooh, these are good.
Yeah.
And then I watched the prequels and I was like, alright, these exist. And then episode 7 came out. And at first it's like, okay, I'm into Star Wars, like why not? I'm excited. J.J. Abrams does good stuff.
Yeah.
And then I started to see stuff about Star Wars Episode 7, and holy shit, I was so pumped. The second I saw the broadsword style lightsaber,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't even care. I want to see this movie.
Yeah.
I don't care what I have to do. Like, nothing else matters. I need to know what that story is.
Yeah. That's great. So that was your origin into Star Wars?
Yeah, I just fell into it kind of by happenstance.
Nice. It's a good way to go about life. Quaff, man?
I was a 90s kid.
Yeah. So,
Like, I mean, that pretty much says it.
so it's kind of like mine, where you just grew up with Star Wars.
Yeah,
and, like,
it's
seeing
because,
the
like,
movies in
our-
theaters
Our parents, like 90s kids, had parents that
from the 70s, or were kids in the
were
70s.
kids or teenagers when Star Wars came out, and so if they were into it, then they kind of passed that down. My mom was a Star Trek person.
Yeah.
So's my mom. So
Nice.
that's awesome.
I'm sorry, everyone. I am more of a Trekkie than I am a Star Wars fan. But I mean,
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
We can change the topic of the podcast to Star Trek. If you want. I won't have anything to say.
I love Star
Trek?
Wars.
No.
Tar Trek, yeah.
Yeah.
And I love it more and more as I get older too.
Yeah. Which is weird. But we'll get into it.
And I think that's just because like my taste in filmmaking
Mm-hmm.
is different, and I think my taste in writing and my taste in just how narrative is constructed just,
Changes over time, yeah.
changes. So I, like the two before, was super stoked when that was the 90s.
And we're back.
In 98,
It was
when the
rad.
first, I was in the, I don't remember what it was that I had seen, but I remember the trailer, the first trailer for Phantom Menace. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. That's how it started. I was like, oh, they're gonna do more, they're gonna release more, because I had the VHS box set.
Yeah.
And
The one that made like the weird sound when you tried to push it in because the air would like...
Yeah. Of course, this was when DVDs first started coming out, and so my first thought as like a 7-year-old, 8-year-old was, oh, they're making DVDs. This is going to be a trailer for a DVD. That's weird. They're going to show a DVD trailer. Oh, this isn't that.
This is new.
This is new.
This is new Star Wars.
And I remember being so excited, and I was like, oh, there's like Yoda, and then if you have time, all of us at some point have time, watch the first teaser for Phantom Menace. It ends with Anakin. I think this is footage that was shot specifically for this teaser, but it ends with Anakin walking alone on Tatooine, and his shadow is casted on the...
Yes, I do remember that.
And I was like, oh my god!
Yes, I remember that
as,
too.
7, 8-year-old me.
Yeah.
And I loved the release of every single one of the prequels.
Yeah.
I was super into the prequels when they came out.
Yeah.
I did remember, after watching them, being a very early teenager when Revenge of the Sith came out.
Yeah.
Going, I can't rewatch these as much. Like, I could just rewatch the original trilogy just kind of on a loop, but I have a really hard time watching these, and I didn't understand why. And at first they're just like, oh, they're just boring. I just think they're boring. They're not as good.
Yeah.
I do remember, though, actively thinking, wow, there's a lot of CG in this.
Even not really knowing.
Even not really knowing, yeah. I was like, there's a lot of CG in this, and I remember thinking, this is Star Wars because they told me it was, and these are the characters that are in Star Wars.
Yeah.
This is not a Star Wars movie. I remember feeling that.
It's funny that a lot of our earliest memories are of the prequels because those came out when we were starting to form memories. And stuff.
And so
Funny, you should let us give ours. and so we can all say that.
Yeah.
So and of course, I mean, spoiler warning, I don't like the prequels.
Right. We'll get into...
We will get into it.
Right. Though my opinion of the prequels has changed significantly in the last, 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we'll get into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was your origin story.
Yeah.
So I played Battlefront a lot when I was younger.
Ooh.
All the time.
Your nerd cred is rising.
But I hadn't seen the
exponentially.
movies, though. I'd never seen any of the movies. I just played Battlefront a lot, and I played, the Lego Star Wars stuff, occasionally.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason I know who Jar Jar Binks is.
Love
Stupid
it.
Lego games tell you would not leave you alone.
That's about how he is in the movies, too.
Yeah.
I figured he's just like, can I help you with something? I'm trying to... No! Hey, listen! No!
Misa want to help.
Connor introduced me to Star Wars, the movies,
Because I felt it was my duty.
about a month ago, so we started with what? A New Hope, and then
Yeah, we started with Star Wars.
whatever 4, 5, and 6 are.
We started with Star Wars, then
Right.
Empire, and then...
And I remember, now that I had seen those movies, I remember that I definitely have seen, like, clips of the prequels before, because I know my dad tried to watch them with us when we were younger, but I think I was 6, so I was mostly asleep.
Mm-hmm.
But, I remember seeing bits, like, I remember seeing Darth Maul's face, because you can never forget that.
Yeah.
Horrifying.
Because, like, when I first saw Insidious, I'm like, oh, that's Darth Maul. movie. I remember seeing, like, Boba Fett and stuff. But I'd never seen the prequels, but to my understanding, most people who like Star Wars do not like the prequels.
Mm-hmm.
No, I wouldn't say everybody.
Most people that I
Yeah.
met in my life.
Yeah.
I intend on watching them at some point, just so I can see them.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
We
need to
will
watch them.
definitely sit
Yeah.
down and watch them.
But
I
for
do
me,
feel like it's important from a cultural standpoint to see these things that everyone talks about, even
Yeah.
if...
to form your own opinion.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely
If
nothing
anything.
else. Yeah.
For me, as someone who was 20 years old when they first saw Star Wars,
Mhm.
it doesn't quite hold the same kind of magic it holds for most of you guys.
Right.
'Cause I mean, like, I'm also not much of a movie person, so the movies I do see are like, if I see a movie, I either love it or I hate it. There really is no middle ground. Except for when I watched Star Wars, it was more like, okay, this is okay. Like, it was like, that's my first middle ground movie.
Yeah.
Star Wars, because
Mm.
I can see the merit of it being like a really cool, nostalgic, like,
Yeah.
I saw this as
Nostalgic.
a kid, so I always want to watch it now as an adult, because it's cool to me. For me, it's just kind of like, okay, this is fun.
Which is why I'm super excited to finish episode 7, because we
Yeah,
didn't finish episode
Right,
7.
right.
I had to,
You had to
go.
leave.
So.
I'm super excited to have you finish episode 7, because that's like half nostalgia trip.
Right.
Yeah? Okay.
Half of that movie is a
Yeah.
nostalgia trip.
Okay.
I mean, in a good way. I don't mean that negatively.
Yeah.
I mean, they very pointedly recaptured specific things from the original trilogy to put in this movie.
Yeah. I don't remember
Like-
where you got to in that movie.
It was in the beginning.
It, like, they just crash landed on Jakku.
Oh, so, okay. I won't even say anything.
Yeah. But, I'm super excited to have you see 8 and 9, because those are going to be brand new.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the story is going to be Star Wars, it's going to be the Star Wars universe,
Sorry,
but...
8 and 9?
Yeah, episode
Yeah.
8, episode 9.
The next
8
two
is
that are
Rogue
coming
One.
out.
Oh, there's another one coming after Rogue
Yeah,
One.
Rogue One is
Rogue
like an
One, yeah.
anthology
Oh.
movie. It is
Yeah.
not tied to... I mean, it is, in narratively,
Right.
but it
It's
is...
part of the universe, but it's
Right.
not a continuation.
All I know is that it happens before.
Right.
Right.
That's-
So, episode 8 is separate from Rogue
So
One.
is it kind of like what Fantastic Beasts is to Harry Potter?
Yes.
Yes.
It's
Okay,
almost,
gotcha.
yeah, it's exactly
Yeah.
like that.
It's
That's
Star
a
Wars,
great-
but it's not
that's
about
a
the
good
Skywalker.
game.
Only if they did it, like, during the Harry Potter franchise.
Explain a nerdy thing with another nerdy thing.
Yep.
Kind of like inflating a balloon too much. I'm making a Futurama about
Yeah.
Star Trek reference. Whoa,
Yeah.
there's a lot of layers here.
Wow.
Go on.
Whoa, I'm done.
Oh.
I'm good. That's my origin
Yeah.
story. But you were gonna say
Anyway, no, I'm just saying, I'm super excited for you to see episode
Oh.
8, episode 9,
Yeah.
because you would have had seen the originals,
Mhm.
and at that point the prequels,
Mhm.
and 7, and hopefully what they say they're doing is, hey, all that nostalgia stuff we did in 7 was to get you on board,
So now
and
you're...
to let you know that we do know what makes Star Wars Star Wars.
Right.
Now we're gonna make the continuation of the story the way we're gonna continue it. We're not just gonna
Gotcha.
rehash.
Right.
So I'm really excited for you to see new Star Wars
Mhm.
as someone who now
yeah.
is kind of like brought into it.
Basically, sorry, no, go on here.
I was just going to say, this isn't really a spoiler, but
Mhm.
you'll find in episode 7 there's a lot of, it feels like episode 4, the original movie from 1977. And a lot of people say that's a complaint about the movie. It's just episode 4 again.
Yeah,
like, it's kind of a remake of it.
Yeah.
But it's like, it was intentional. They did that to put you into Star Wars again. And now that you're in, new stuff. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, what the movies are to me is just like a cheesy little adventure story that you can just kind of put on.
And that's really kind of what it
That's what they
is.
were when they first
Yeah.
came out too.
Yeah.
Like that's
Because
what
I know
it was.
some people who are very like religiously Star Wars,
Yeah.
and it seems like I feel like you're really putting a little bit too much onto this.
Right.
not the best thing in the world show, like
Right.
a movie. But
Well, I mean, honestly,
I liked it.
Star Wars was just a traditional, like, classical epic, the hero's journey,
Mhm. Well,
set
yeah.
in space.
And I get it.
Yeah.
I like those kind of movies. Like I love The Princess Bride for that reason.
Mm.
Like, you know, so
But I think The Princess Bride is more like aware of itself.
It's a meta comedy.
Right.
Yeah,
it's
it's-
supposed to be.
Yeah,
Mhm.
as opposed to Star Wers is like just what Princess Bride is making fun of, kind of. Star Wars is like
They're taking
purely
it
that.
seriously.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's
Cover
my
girl?
story.
Origin story?
From the ages of birth until 22.
That period.
The only thing I can say that Star Wars did for me was get me into special effects makeup because holy moly, Darth Maul.
Yeah.
Yeah, was the only thing I was like, that looks fucking cool.
Darth
I
Maul
want
made
to
an
do
impact
that.
on
Yeah.
us here tonight.
Like every Halloween, I was like, I don't even know who that is, but that's what I want to be for Halloween.
Yeah.
Every single year.
Yeah.
Was really against watching Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
When we started our relationship,
Mhm.
like all the time, you want to watch it, you want to watch it. And I said, no, don't want to do it. Don't want to be part of that. Do not want to be even part of the stigma of what Star Wars fans are.
Yeah.
And
Star Wars fans.
yeah.
You know,
So
those
then,
people.
yeah, those people.
Those types, the Star Wars type of person?
Yeah. So
Sorry.
then, reluctantly watched
Episode four.
A New Hope.
No.
Was not dazzled by it at all. So watched that at 22. Took a year and a half off.
Yeah, like a year and a half later, because a year and a half later they announced episode 7 about
Right.
then.
And then I was like, and then he's like, come on, let's just watch them all, and then you'll watch the new one. Because the new one did look really good. So I was like, okay, we'll get into that. So what we did is we started from episode 1.
Oh, that's right. We
And
watched episode 1.
because that just made more sense to me,
Yeah.
is that we would start with episode 1. And I got through episode 1 and I was like, oh, that was really funny. I liked Jar Jar Binks as a kid. Don't even know why. Because I'd never seen him in a movie.
He's a toddler.
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
He's just goofy, wacky character. Like kids like
Yeah,
him.
yeah. So then got to episode 2. And that's when I became a Star Wars fan. I was like, oh, you got me hooked. This is a really good story.
And we'll talk about that later.
Yep, so I am the only one probably in this room, unless Taylor watches them and falls in love with them too.
Which would be cool.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, this keeps happening.
I'm the only person that likes the prequels that I've ever met. That is just so enthralled, would rather watch those anytime than the original 3.
I predict I'll feel the same. about
It's
those.
because I love 90s and early 2000s. Like, that was my jam.
Hayden
So, like,
Christensen's hair.
oh my god, I
He's
fucking
he looks like a Backstreet Boy.
I love Hayden Christensen more than I would care to share. But,
Too late.
yep.
Coarse and rough. It's everywhere.
You will try.
You will try.
That's
will try. God damn.
So I absolutely love the prequels. Then we rounded.
I don't blame him for any of that.
Then we rounded them out.
Yeah.
Then we rounded out episode 5 and 6 and
Mhm.
saw 7, and I just went, yeah, those movies don't have quite the love thing that I liked in episode 2 and 3, but still really good. Love the universe. Love all the nuances. Love hearing about the background characters and all that stuff. So
Yeah. That's
Yep.
okay.
That's fine.
Cool.
Well,
So I'm
if I
new
can
to-
pose an interesting theory that I have just from listening to the people in the circle.
Yeah.
So very narrow case study I'll have.
Yeah.
So bad
Like, this would not hold up in a medical journal.
No.
But,
medical, definitely not a medical journal.
Wow.
Certainly not.
well, psychiatric, whatever.
Sure.
All right.
But I think it's interesting because when you look at the original trilogy, think about the concept of high and low fantasy, right?
Right.
When we watch the original trilogy, that's kind of a nice middle ground. Like, it's fantasy, but it's not like super out there stuff. It's
I
not
think
super
I know where
grounded.
you're going with this.
The original, or the prequel trilogy is high fantasy. You got the flips, you got the, almost unlimited power, like, it's a little bit more fantastical.
You have what? Almost what?
Unlimited power.
Unlimited power.
But then you have
Anyway.
episode 7, which, in my opinion, is the lowest fantasy because it's like super grounded and earthy and like it's made to be
When you say low fantasy, do you mean like
less.
not necessarily the world being a fantasy world, but like within those rules in that fantasy world,
So-
there aren't many
Right, like
He's-
leaps and bounds.
And he's also mixing terms too.
Okay.
Because there's high fantasy and low fantasy, but then there's also like high magic, low magic. Like, the Star Wars, all of them are high fantasy.
Of course they are, yeah.
But I would say the original trilogy is like that low magic.
This is
low, yeah.
This is funny because as you were saying that, I was like with you until you got to the point where you said that the prequel trilogy was more higher fantasy than the originals, and I was going to argue the opposite point.
No, I totally agree with you.
Well, here's why: because the original trilogy felt like a fantasy. It felt like a magical adventure where a man, like this kid, was taking a journey. Whereas the prequel trilogy was very political, very much about the constructs of the world and how it worked, and less about the
Yes, but
magic
the fight scenes were way more...
Sure.
That spectacle, that's not narrative content.
Right. And that's why I think, knowing that Jodie's someone who's super into special effects, I think that's why she loves the prequels so much.
Oh, I
because
agree
it has
with that, yeah.
air of finesse, that
Yes.
fantasticalness. I think that you two love the original trilogy so much because it is that nice middle place. And I know I love episode 7 because I like my stuff dark and gritty and
twisty.
And I generally
rounded.
just don't give a shit. So.
And I
really.
and I don't know how you feel about this, Alex.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not saying this because this is the most recent Star Wars film, and therefore, Episode 7 is my favorite Star Wars film.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our next question. Which one's your favorite?
Okay, this is a good question.
So yours is 7?
Yeah. 7.
Explain yourself. Go.
Yeah, 7 because, and that's the thing though, if I were 10 years younger, so if I were 15, Empire would still be my favorite.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. 10 years ago, or if you today were 10 years old, 10 years younger?
I can't speak to that because I don't know what that would be like.
I'm just saying. You said like 10 years ago,
like a 15-year-old Connor that knew of episode 7.
So you knew of episode 7?
Say 10 years ago, episode 7 came out.
Oh, right. You still think you would like Empire better than...
Yeah, I would, yeah.
Huh.
But that's... I wasn't into the darker... I mean, Empire is dark, but it's a very specific kind of like...
I don't...
Oh, our friends are in danger, and they're on the defensive, and stuff happens, and they lose in the end, essentially. But I wasn't into... I don't like to use the word dark when we're referring to episode 7 because it's not.
I was going to say, I don't feel like it's a dark film at all.
Yeah, because that's what I was scared of. That
I feel the
really
take
dark.
on it is more grounded.
I don't even agree with that. I feel like it feels more fantasy like magical, at least in the prequels, definitely. Because it just feels like an adventure. It feels like exciting, and it makes you feel like a kid again. Whereas even Empire feels like this is the dark movie, and that was what it's supposed to be. Yeah. Like, this is the dark one, and I feel like episode 7 was kind of separate from that. Maybe episode 8 will definitely be the dark middle chapter, but I feel like episode 7, compared to everything else, has been like very...
I see what you're saying though, Jordan, because like, it's just, that's what a lot of our movies lately have been, super dark, so it just has that flavor to it that is just common right now.
Well, I think realism, even in fantasy and sci-fi, is becoming more prevalent.
And I love I eat that up.
Yeah, like grounded fiction.
You know what? Here's what I mean by that too.
Yeah.
Even in the original trilogy, there were moments of great character. Like, there was a lot of character stuff.
Yeah.
Great moments. One of my favorite moments of that in the original trilogy is in Empire. And it's a scene that I don't particularly like otherwise, but I only like because of, and it's with Leia and Han, and it's 2 scenes. It's right before, it's right before dinner, and they're just talking about, the world, and they're talking about Lando, and they're talking about, and then after that, after Han's been tortured, and he comes back, and it's just this, you feel that, and it's character driven.
Yeah.
But I still feel in those movies there is a drive. Get from A to B.
Yeah.
From B to C. Whereas in Force Awakens, and maybe this is because they were kind of using plot points that we kind of already seen before, so they kind of felt that they could not lean into that as much, but I really felt there was a lot more emphasis on diving into who these characters are.
That might just be because of the climate of narrative today as opposed to the 80s.
No, right, and that's what I'm saying.
Right.
But me 10 years ago wouldn't have appreciated that as much.
That makes sense.
Yes, that makes sense.
Today I do.
Yeah.
That's why now, as opposed to, it's not because it's the newest Star Wars, it's because where I am in my life and what I appreciate out of film.
My assumption would be that someone who was younger, like 15 years old, would like the new thing just because it's new and exciting and cleaner looking, whereas the older stuff is like old. It's an old thing. It's boring because it's old.
You good?
I'm done.
Okay, cool. So episode 7 is also my favorite, not just because of the reason I said. The real reason, so I'm a person who likes villains. I care so much more about a good villain than I do a hero.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yep.
I love Kylo Ren. I want to know
Do you like Kylo Ren or do you like Ben?
They're the same person.
both.
Are they?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I don't
I
think so.
love the character of Ben Solo, the man who left everything behind to pursue this path that he thought was the right path. And I love Kylo Ren, the person trying to emulate this grand figure and falling horribly short. And I love the extreme silence and composure juxtaposed to the outrage and the random chaotic destruction. I love
his
it.
whiny bitchiness.
Yeah.
People hate that. I love that.
I think it's hilarious.
Get to see a villain
Yes.
be a whiny little bitch.
Yeah,
And he is.
So
He
that's
throws
why
tantrums.
that's why there's such a difference between I don't know. I love the differences between the extreme Kylo Ren and then you turn to Ben Solo, who is this whiny little bitch.
I love it. I love it. And I want to know his backstory more than I care about Rey's backstory. Like, that is
I
honest
agree
to
with
God
that.
the truth.
Oh, I agree with that.
I don't care what Luke's been up to. I don't really care why Rey was on Jakku. I want to know what the fuck happened with Kylo Ren.
Here's the thing. I think a lot of people feel this way to a degree about like the bad guys are more interesting than the heroes because when they purposely made Rey's backstory a mystery, they like deliberately put it in front of your face so that you would think about it.
Yeah.
Whereas, the hint or the teases to it, not like what had actually happened. Whereas Kylo Ren, you just want to know it. So they have to make you want Rey's
because otherwise
backstory.
you wouldn't care.
Right, exactly.
You wouldn't care about why she's a hero or
right. You just be like, she's Rey. Cool, let's go. Whereas with the villain, you want to know, like instinctively, as soon as a villain shows up on screen, you're like, why is he a villain? How did he get here? What's his motivations? That's just more interesting than I'm standing up for what's good because we just have seen that so much.
And in my opinion, and of course this is just an opinion, I think villains generally are more motivated characters than heroes. Because heroes fight for lofty goals like justice and freedom and all that, as to where villains have very micro-specific goals because that's why they're a villain, right?
Yeah.
Kylo Ren is Kylo Ren because he wants to be Darth Vader.
Yeah.
He wants to be that figure.
Right. I saw this thing and I might try to find it and put it in the link. I probably forget. But it's basically this thing that looked at a bunch of movies and said, in all of these films, and then they listed like a ton of films, like hundreds of them, the whole struggle is the bad guy, the villain, wants to change something, and the hero has to stop him from making that change.
Yep.
Like the villains are trying to change the
accurate.
world in some way.
Totally.
Whereas the heroes are like, you're trying to change the world, we need to stop it. The only movie that I can think of where that's not true is the very first James Bond movie, Dr. No. And that was really hard to follow because you had the bad guys were trying to stop this rocket launch. And James Bond had to stop them stopping the rocket launch.
The original trilogy. They were trying to overthrow the Empire. That's another example of when, like, the hero was actually trying to change something.
That is true, which way more thematic to what we're talking about here. Yeah. But then you look at the prequel trilogy, and it's the villains trying to set up this empire and rule and change things, and the Jedi attempting, spoilers, they fail because of Star Wars, to stop them.
And another reason I'm so interested in Kylo Ren, so like I said, when I first saw Star Wars, I was interested in the fall of Anakin Skywalker. I love the story of the fall.
Yeah.
They fucked it up because of bad decision-making, bad, I assume, directing. Because they made this character who's supposed to be wildly emotional, and that's his downfall, but they stripped away his emotions.
Not just bad. lazy. I think that's the key word that we need to focus on when talking about the prequels.
But we finally get the chance to retell that story, but doing it right. And I want to see that because I want that fucking story.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what they go from there. For a lot of the same reasons, mine is probably episode 7. I know it is... Well, I know it's like hard.
I had better hopes for you.
I know. My runner-up, and sometimes I kind of go back and forth.
You do.
Is episode 5.
Yeah.
Just because.
Yeah, same.
There's some. Connor, we talked about this. Episode 4 is a great movie. It feels worn in certain areas because we're so familiar with it. But then I think about it, and I'm equally as familiar with episode 5. I could probably quote all of episode 5, and maybe there's some parts of 4 that I would even forget. I know 5 better. But it just doesn't feel as tired as episode 4 does.
Yes. Episode 4 is tired.
Yeah, it's very tired. And
I attribute that to Lawrence Kasdan.
Oh, the screenwriter? Yeah.
Who wrote 7.
Yeah.
And
Indiana Jones and
the movie knows how to pace itself. And if you really think about 4, yes, they go from A to B, and there is a 3-act structure, yes, but my God... It takes forever for you to give a shit about anything.
Also, not directed by George Lucas is a key thing. I looked it up here. Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, directed and written by George Lucas. And then that doesn't happen again, being, actually, the prequels, all written and directed by George Lucas. But the only other movie to be written and directed by the same person is going to be Episode 8. Ryan Johnson.
And he's writing 9, but he's not directing 9.
That's right. Well, actually...
Or is he directing 9 now?
He's not directing 9. He wrote the story. The screenplay is going to be by Colin Trevorrow, who did... Okay, my entire theory about people writing and directing not being the same is thrown out.
Doesn't that drive you guys crazy? Because that's a consistency thing, and I hate that. Like, with the Harry Potter movies, I literally lose my shit when I watch 3 because I hate it. Because I fell in love with these first 2 movies, and then they fucked it over in the third one.
The only difference between the first 2 and the third one is the director.
Exactly.
And the entire tone of
the entire tone.
Because of the director.
Don't you blame it on
the director? Because it's the same screenwriter for all of them.
Okay. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Directors. I want a consistent director.
Yeah, me too.
Because I love consistency. I want to know that this is going to be my Star Wars movie. That I know what I'm going to look forward to.
I will say that for the prequels, they all felt similar to each other.
Yes, that's what I loved.
I want Jar Jar Abrams to do all of them.
Don't say Jar Jar Abrams.
Yes,
but it's
so you're good with yours. So you're gonna stick with 7.
It's gonna be a struggle my entire life for between episode 5. Hopefully, episode 8 will be better than episode 7, even. But I don't know.
Are you chiming in?
Yes.
Ching,
ding,
ching,
ding,
ching.
ding, ding.
I just like the darker stories, and I think episode 5 is darker than episode 4. Obviously,
I think Rogue One's gonna be.
Oh yeah.
I think Rogue One might feel more like Star Wars than A New Hope.
Maybe.
Whoa.
Just as a brief point.
No, Jordan was chiming in.
Steve Kloves wrote every Harry Potter movie.
But the 5th one.
Except for the 5th one.
Which is the worst one.
Michael
No.
Goldenberg.
Of course, the worst. But we'll save that for another spotlight.
Let me know.
Yeah, we should have done that.
We should have, actually.
Yeah.
Probably more topical. You were going to say something.
Yeah, but even though episode 7 is my answer because we're talking about Star Wars, the 3 trilogies, one of my favorite Star Wars materials ever is always going to be Star Kids musical Annie.
I haven't seen that yet.
It's about Anakin Scott, not Darth Vader, even though he is Darth Vader at the time. Anakin Skywalker going back to his home planet to pod race one last time.
Oh, that's great.
You can only call a kid Annie so many times before he snaps.
And Jar Jar Binks does appear.
Nice.
By the same guy that plays Lupin in a Harry Potter musical.
Oh, it's Matt.
Yeah, him.
Matt. Shoot.
I can never remember his name, but he is one of the funniest people.
I don't know.
Is it better than a Harry Potter musical, the first one? Because I don't think anything.
It is as good.
Okay,
Well,
that's
have you
good.
seen Twisted though?
No,
is
but I've seen parts of it, and it doesn't do the same thing for me that any single line from a Harry Potter
Twisted's not
musical
as funny, but it is a better written musical.
My favorite episode.
Yes, please.
Yeah, go on.
Star Wars.
Wow, we are going to be in this.
I do always struggle. I always want to say 2, but I almost think 3 is my favorite.
Yeah.
Because
You will try.
yeah, because I will try. because Hayden Christensen looks a little more older, and I really can't get over the fact that in episode 1, the jump from episode 1 to episode 2, that it's only
10 years.
It's only 10 years, and Padme looks no different.
Yeah.
So I'm just like,
She's supposed to be 14 to 24, and she looks the same.
Yeah, she looks exactly the same. So I will say 3, just because
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Fun Star Wars fact that pops in my head because you mentioned episode 3.
Yeah.
During filming of the lightsaber scenes, they would have to take out the audio of Obi-Wan
Ewan
Kenobi. Ewan McGregor, because he would make lightsaber sounds,
Yeah.
and it was so loud it was distracting, so they had to cut it out.
They told him it's like, I love that story.
I love watching the bloopers
Yeah.
because Hayden Christensen is a fucking mess when he fights.
I love that story because it tells me that Ewan McGregor is such a huge Star Wars fan.
And he is.
and he gets to be in Star Wars, and think what you will of the movies, that's a dream, right? Like, you get to be in this franchise that you love, so.
He was in episode 7.
Yeah. What? The voice of.
He
said a line.
Oh, yeah.
Your journey starts here, or these are your first
These
steps.
are your first steps. Go on.
Which I thought was Luke for a while. I thought that was supposed to be Luke.
Yeah. We'll talk about the voices of episode 7 later, because there are some weird ones. Go on.
No, that was it.
Oh, cool.
For me, there are really only 3 episodes of Star Wars. There's the 7th one that just came out. Then there's the chunk of 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3. Because 4, 5, 6 to me was just one episode. Because we watched it.
Because you watched it in one day.
In one continuous
Oh,
sitting.
that's your problem.
One a day.
No, we watched it in one whole sitting.
No,
I swear we did. We did.
That's
Must
your problem.
2 days. 2 days.
No, it was one day, and then Alex came home, and you're like, "Let's watch a 7th episode." I'm like, "Okay."
I guess we'll watch another Star Wars movie.
Another one.
Now you know why she left early.
Yeah.
No,
I gotta
get out of here.
go. I gotta go.
No, Bill.
Oh, is that my phone? It's not ringing. Yeah, it sounds like it's I gotta go.
No, that was dumb.
You were
though.
really pissed, though.
No, I was because I wanted to stay and finish the movie. I think Alex called to rehearsal that day.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
I heard that story. That's
Yeah.
baloney.
But yeah, to me, there's only I've only watched one episode, and the episode I watched was 4, 5, 6.
What did you think? Was it?
I
was it
cannot
alright?
different. I can't tell. If you were to ask me,
Ewoks are in
when
6.
Okay.
That's how I tell them. Like,
Ew,
oh, the
that's so
Ewoks are in
gross.
6.
Yoda's in
It's
5.
it's winter
Okay.
in 5,
Yeah.
and I don't give a fuck
I
about
can't
4.
remember.
They're in the forest in 6. They're on.
Yeah.
They're on the ice in
And the clouds.
Yeah.
So Jabba is in 4 then.
Yes.
season
Okay.
4.
No, well,
Yeah.
Nah, he's in
Jabba's
6,
in
yeah.
6.
Oh.
He makes an appearance in 4, though.
Yeah. Luke has a green
Yeah,
lightsaber.
that's right. He steps on his tail.
Yeah.
And yeah, and he lifts off the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alex pointed that out to me too. Yeah.
I just love it so much that George Lucas is just like, let's shoehorn Jabba in here and let's force it to happen, even though it does not make sense.
But yeah, of those 3, I can't tell where one ends and the other starts. I just can't remember, so they're all together.
Cool. So, I guess that has to be a favorite then, because that's
I
all
guess
you've
so.
seen. Cool, all 3 of them. So, side question: how do you feel about the Ewoks, Connor? You go first. I think you have the strongest opinion out of all of us here.
About the Ewoks.
Oh, I doubt
Okay. Here's my opinion on the Ewoks. They look fucking disgusting.
What?
They look like something out of a nightmare.
Are you kidding?
You're talking about
They look like if a Furby came to life.
Yes,
So
exactly.
scary.
They're
My-
little bears. That's all they
Aside
are.
from that,
Little
though,
bears.
I don't give a shit. Honestly. I would have much rather have had the Wookiees,
Oh yeah.
which is what was planned. It was supposed to be on or this is before they said that Wookiees are from Kashyyyk or whatever.
So, I was.
No, that's not true because the Christmas special, which is canon, it's canon.
I will say, just to answer, because whatever, I think that in general, I think the Ewoks are cute, but they do have the creepiest faces, just in general. Just
You
their
just
faces.
picked the worst one. That's why.
All right, look at another. Look at a better one.
It looks like they're perpetually in a state where, like, someone
They
just
just have the
punched them
weirdest
in the
looking
face.
faces.
It's like,
That one's bad.
What about this? What about that white guy over there?
He's got a beard.
Oh my
They're
God.
just so cute when they walk. They walk.
Yeah,
they're
they walk and they waddle and they're like.
Yeah. I just love how angry they are.
Here's like, honestly, Ewoks piss me off
Really?
because it's comical the way that stormtroopers lose.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, at some point you're like, okay, like they lose because they're the bad guys, and like the
throwing
Ewoks
sticks.
know the terrain. Literally, they throw a rock.
they're throwing, like, debris.
And they run around the
Like,
with
there's a
rope.
one shot where an Ewok throws like a rock smaller than my fist,
Uh-huh.
and it hits a stormtrooper, and he goes down.
So if they had if they had just taken the scene where they like tie those two logs and then smashed AT-AT or ATST, I can never remember.
And then if that crushed every last stormtrooper in
Well,
there.
yeah. Well, I was gonna if they had taken that idea and been this is how Ewoks fight. They're just clever and they build these traps
Right.
and everything.
Yeah.
I could
But they
buy
only
that.
did only did that, and then they were tripping them with wire and everything.
Well,
It
that's
was
the
just
thing. Again, they barely
Yeah.
modified the script
Because they're little
Yeah.
bears.
from when it was
because the
when
Ewoks
it
could have
was
dominated the
Wookiees.
stormtroopers. I mean the Wookiees, yeah.
And because throwing Wookiees throwing boulders at stormtroopers,
Yeah.
I believe
It'd be like Andre the Giant and Princess Bride to bring it back.
it's just like
I missed on purpose.
so.
Sick.
Yeah.
Sick.
Thanks. Yeah. What
All
about
right.
you? How do you feel about Ewoks?
So, I wouldn't care about Ewoks if it weren't for the fact that when I was 13, my dad got me and my sister both, because we would go over there every other weekend, got us portable DVD players so we could watch DVDs when we were at his house.
Oh.
And with it came this DVD, that was 2 mini movies,
Oh no!
all
You watched
about
those?
the Ewoks.
The Ewok
Can I have
movies?
those?
I don't know where it is anymore,
Ah.
but it made me care about them. Because
It
they
worked.
befriended
Really?
a small child. It's about these children that crash land on Endor.
I thought you didn't like scary movies.
These children crash land on Endor.
Horrible.
And then they assimilate to the culture, and it's this is amazing. Yeah. And it's meant to be
Ewok
the
love.
backstory of why Ewoks are even not attacking the rebels as soon as they show up because, racism. Oh, you're taller than me, let me kill you because you scare me.
So-
okay,
Did you see Caravan of Courage and Ewok Adventure and Ewoks: The Battle for Endor?
Yep.
Because those are the 2 Ewok movies they made.
Yep.
Will you buy me those for Christmas?
I would. Sure.
Now,
Again,
I will find a VHS copy of the Christmas special. I
No.
swear to
Oh,
you.
No, please.
I have a VHS player. We can
I
watch it.
swear to God, I will find someone.
Allegedly, it's on YouTube, or at least there is a movie
Yeah.
movie called the Star Wars Full Christmas Special.
Right.
It's an hour. and a
But
half.
I want someone's home video that they put in their VCR and recorded it when it was on the air.
So George Lucas couldn't edit it
Yeah.
after the fact. Although he would sneak into someone's house and then edit it and then put it back.
Oh,
Just to
part
be
of my
like,
original.
Oh, part of my original vision. So that's Ewoks for you, huh? That's cool. I never knew that you saw those at a young age. I didn't know anyone saw those.
well, that's the thing. I don't really remember them. I just remember feeling oh yeah, Ewoks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
fucking Ewoks.
I like the Ewoks. I think they are cute. They have the weirdest, creepiest faces. But apart from that, they're just adorable the way they move, and they're these tiny people. Although once they start killing stormtroopers, and one of them, their friend dies, and then he goes over and is shaking. It's wake up, and I'm like, oh, well, okay. I guess this is where my life is headed.
Yeah.
But in general, I'm a fan. I like Ewoks. Ewoks.
Yeah, Ewoks are cool.
Ewoks.
Yeah, Ewoks.
Yeah, Ewoks.
Yeah, Ewoks.
I mean, I do think they look gross. I think they could have done literally anything else.
Just-
Even when they
Yeah.
started blinking, when they had to redo a whole
they
movie
made
to
the
get
Ewoks
the Ewoks
blink, yeah.
blink,
Slightly
yeah.
off.
Oh, it wasn't
Yeah.
all part of my original vision.
I don't like, I don't know if this was intended. Probably not, but it's
It was
still-
all intended.
Yeah.
But I feel looking at the Ewoks, it makes me feel like there's some like horribly racist take on like indigenous people. Like,
Yeah.
because I mean,
I can
if
see
you
that.
really dig into
It
it,
was the 80s.
Yeah. Can we?
that's just what I see when I see it. And like, do you really have to make them so illiterate and so like incompetent that they speak by like shrieking at each other?
Yeah.
There's not even like any kind of like pattern or form of language between them.
Right.
Like literally, stormtroopers are big and white, and
Well,
they like.
And getting into that
Just-
point, or at least the point of like drawing from culture in the Star Wars movies, I am shocked that battle sequence wasn't so much better. Because
Battle of Endor?
yeah,
Okay.
because guess what happened in a very foresty area just before that movie got made? Vietnam.
Yeah.
Like, use that. That's good.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's terrible.
But for like a
But,
kids movie,
If
though.
you're talking about
Opportunity.
jungle combat,
yeah.
that's what was there.
Plus, the fighting really pissed
And
me off. It's
what
like,
would
you
it
should-
be
Star Wars
more
equivalent of
sense?
Agent Orange.
And they also had to
The Death Star.
juxtapose that with what's happening with Luke on the second Death Star.
Yeah.
God, that movie was supposed to be so much darker.
Yeah.
Oh man, the original treatment for Return of the Jedi.
It was supposed to be
Wow.
Revenge of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was it wasn't even just like supposed to. It was.
Yeah.
The posters like
They put out
Yeah,
trailers.
they put
The
it out,
movie was
and then
done, and it
then
was
last
called,
second.
in the movie, in the original treatment, Luke like ends like by literally walking off into the sunset, having like essentially killed Vader and completed the like training to the dark side, and he sort of gives up on everything and goes and hermits himself.
Yeah.
That's how it's supposed to end.
Weird.
Well, speaking of the animals, I think we should all go around and say our favorite creature of Star
cool.
Wars.
Garbage Pit
first?
Monster.
Huh?
Garbage Pit Monster.
Oh, that
Oh,
tentacle
yeah.
thing
I like
No, I'm
them.
kidding.
Oh.
with the eye.
I'm gonna say Wampas. Wampas are so funny.
The ice creature, the ice yeti.
Because he just comes out of nowhere, he's like, wah! And all this, a sequence that didn't even need to be filmed, but was filmed because,
Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill got in a car accident.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
scratched his face all to hell. So they had to make something to have him have scars.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting
Throw
how
a Wampa at it.
I think it's really interesting how the first movie, the entire thing is like one film, and then the second episode 5. Episode 5 has like this weird beginning that doesn't have anything to do, and once Luke is fully healed again, they're like, alright, now the movie can start, and it takes like 10-15 minutes to get there.
Seriously, yeah.
And then the third movie did that for like half an hour with Jabba's sail barge and everything. It's like, yeah, they needed to wrap up stuff, they needed to like wrap stuff up from the episode 5 with, Han being frozen. But once they get off the sail barge, it's like, okay, now the movie can start. It's like not tied in at all, which it's funny. It's interesting. Completely derailed from the question, of course.
Did you? Oh,
What's your favorite
just
creature?
the one. Yeah.
Can we types of droids be a creature? Or does it
Sure.
have to be? Okay, I love the gonk droids, the little garbage thing.
Damn it.
They run around on the Death Star.
Wait,
and
are
like,
those
do
the
the trash.
literal trash cans that are like? Just...
Yeah, well, they're like
Oh,
tiny
I
boxes
love the
on the ground. They go
trash
gonk, gonk,
Yeah.
and they just move really fast. I like them because they're just super funny. But also, if you do play the Lego Star Wars video games, you can be them, and they
Yeah.
move. They move super fast.
Yeah, they do.
Like all the other characters like move at normal speed, and some of them move like super slow. But the Gonk droid's just like streaking, like run across the entire map, and it's just like breakneck speeds. So I like them.
Ditto.
Cool. I'm glad we're
Yeah.
on the same page.
Casadina Wolfman.
You talking about the werewolf that just shows up?
Yep.
Cool.
Just at some point, they're like, you know what? Forget aliens. Let's put a werewolf in this picture.
What about in the cantina, the actual devil?
Yeah.
Satan.
Seriously.
Just Satan, just hanging out, just like.
Oh my god, how did I miss that?
Yeah. Oh, you want me to show you?
Yes.
Satan in Star Wars.
Oh my god,
It's
yes.
it's not even like an alien that looks like Satan. It's just that's the devil.
I have to see this.
Satan. In
Nobody said tauntauns? Tauntauns are cool.
Well, I also
Taylor hasn't gone yet.
I haven't done yet.
I also really like that the Wolfman makes a cameo in episode 7.
Episode 7, yeah. I don't think I've ever seen the Wolfman, but I've heard people talking about him.
Well, he was taken out in the first round of edits.
Oh.
The only reason I know about them is 'cause my uncle has the originals.
Yeah.
So, do you have a favorite creature?
I don't know what they're called, but it's like they're those little dinosaur things that you can ride, and they have 2 legs.
Tauntauns, yeah.
Thank you. I love those. Those are cute.
The one they cut open to put Luke in.
Oh my
No.
God.
Yeah.
Literally the devil.
Literal Satan.
Yeah, he's in the cantina, and he's just like, when Luke and Obi-Wan first show up, he just like turns his head, and it's just like, oh, that's Satan, I guess we're just not going to talk about this, huh? Also, when I looked that up, I found a link that says, why Christians must boycott Disney's Star Wars Episode 7.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's have that be the next question. Why would a Christian
Yeah.
boycott that?
Let's not.
Let's not get into
Let's
this.
not.
Oh, come on, that's the funnest part.
So did you answer?
Yeah,
I
it's
said the Tauntauns.
Oh, Tauntauns, cool.
They're
I thought
cute.
they smelled bad.
They're nice.
On the outside.
They're cool. I love their sounds, like the...
I love the claymation when they move like
Yeah.
I hate that.
It's 1
I hate it
second
so
of
much, I love it.
Yeah, I hate love it. So do we want to get into, like, what is our least favorite Star Wars movie?
Sure, we can trash talk.
Yeah, let's trash.
Yeah, why
I
not?
feel like a lot of us are going to have similar
I
ones.
can't answer
Can,
that.
can we rephrase the question?
Sure, what's up?
Maybe we rephrase it to what are things about Star Wars that you like? I don't know, like
Well, I wanted to do a two-part
Okay.
question
Okay.
later on. One is, what is your favorite part about the prequels?
Okay.
And the other is, what is your least favorite part about the original trilogy?
Ooh, good series question.
Yeah.
So let's just do that.
Let's
Okay.
do that
Yeah,
instead.
let's do that.
Okay. So I'll go first.
Which one are you starting with?
My favorite part of the prequels, and I have several. There's a lot, like, as much as we rag on the prequels, they do a lot of cool stuff. But my favorite thing is probably Coruscant.
Yeah.
And sure, maybe it didn't come from the prequels, it showed up in, like, a side thing or whatever, but I just love Coruscant. The idea of, like, a giant city planet, and it's just, like,
Oh,
the way it looks and the way it feels, it's just cool.
Yeah, completely fell in love with episode 2 when they're trying to find out who brought that thing.
Who would try to assassinate
Padme. Yes.
And they were, like, doing that
huge-
race through the streets of...
Didn't we go to Coruscant when we went to Star Tours?
No.
I think that was
yes,
the
I think one
first
of them-
time that we went.
One of them was that, and the other was Tatooine.
Yeah.
On Star Tours at Disney, which is amazing.
Yes. Go Disney.
I love Coruscant. I have others, but they're a little bit more popular, and I don't know if anyone else is going to say them. So, things that we like about the prequels.
Everything. Except,
Specifically?
I really like Watto.
Watto, yeah.
Just because he's really funny. Ewan McGregor
Oh, yeah.
is definitely
Oh, yeah.
high point on that. And Samuel L. Jackson. I like just all the people who were involved.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like...
I love how people call Samuel L. Jackson's character Mace Windu, and I don't like that because Sam Jackson was just playing Sam Jackson.
Yeah,
he just walked on first,
Sam
it's like,
Jackson
I'm
just
Sam
decided he was now the Star Wars.
I just love that he's
They
the only
didn't-
one that has a purple lightsaber.
There's no character named Mace Windu. They didn't write a script with those lines in it. They were just like, oh, Sam Jackson's here. Get the cameras on him. And then
Yeah.
they just put it in the movie.
I tried to
Yeah,
Alex
lightsaber's cool.
Alex tried to tell, because I asked him well, how do you get to pick what color lightsaber you have? And Alex is like, well,
I think it's like, everyone gets blue when
that's
they
what
first start
I'm
off, and then like
yeah.
green if you build your own and make it green or whatever. And then
I was like, well, why
Canonically
do
speaking,
yeah. What's the in-universe reason for the
the
different colors?
in-universe reason is there's a cave
With different crystals in it, right?
with different kyber crystals in it, and you're supposed to... essentially, this is like the cave on Dagobah. You go in and you face your... Essentially, this is your last trial as a Padawan before you take your...
Well, right.
So-
Building your
okay,
own
so
lightsaber
why-
is like the
so-
final
so
step.
what-
So you go in with with your training lightsaber, which is what you're given. It's so cute, but it's not yours, and you have a hilt that can't turn on because I have a kyber crystal.
So all the bad guys just get red?
That's what I'm saying. Like, why do all the bad guys
Hey,
get red?
the red
We'll talk
crystals
about-
are...
Sorry.
We can talk about
Sorry,
this
okay.
when we get to
Okay,
other things, but
Okay.
good plan.
So,
Yes.
but yes, that was totally my. I'm like, how come Samuel L. gets a purple one and nobody else
Well,
does?
Sam Jackson gets a purple lightsaber because he
Sam
walked up to George Lucas and said, "I'm getting a purple
I want
lightsaber."
mine to be
and George Lucas was like, "This is like the one
No,
thing that I
do it
can't."
right, do it right.
George Lucas is like, "Oh, this is the one thing that I can't influence because of my power." Because Sam Jackson would have just like walked off it.
Yeah.
But then he wouldn't tell you that. He'd be like, my original vision was to have him have a purple lightsaber.
So, yep, those are the things
Cool,
that I like.
cool. Good.
And Hayden Christensen
Those-
With that being said,
Yeah, those are respectable things to like about them.
thank you.
These are...
You have not seen the
Yeah,
prequels,
so I don't know.
but is there anything you can say about what would be cool in them based on everything you've heard so far?
I mean, from what I know about them, I feel like I'd be more interested in the story
Yeah,
of the prequels, honestly.
you would think that. That's the
right?
problem.
Oh, okay.
Except for the 15-minute trade negotiations and the 20
Oh, it's more than 15
tutorial.
I don't know. Just based on what I know is probably...
There's
The idea of them.
The idea of them, I'm really interested in the story, but I've just heard that people are disappointed in how it was executed because, like, with a story like that, you have such high expectations of, like, how cool it can be, and then I guess it falls really short, so...
That's a great segue.
Okay.
What I'm about to say.
All right.
Oh, I love segues.
My fate, like, legitimately, what I like about the prequels, the idea of the prequels.
Yeah.
And not like, oh, like, let's do, like, honestly, the original idea George Lucas must have had for these 3 movies, like, in their purest, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if moment, must have been amazing. Because, and here's how I think George Lucas sabotaged himself. He tried to write Shakespeare. He tried so hard to write Shakespeare Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly not right in...
Well, not in heightened language like that.
Language. Well.
There are
I
times.
don't know.
Well.
Yeah.
I will say that I don't think he tried hard at any point during this film. He wanted very much to make, but I don't think he tried.
Yeah,
I think his
I don't think
pretension. I think his pretension and his ego got in the way. And well, I'm George Lucas. I made Star Wars.
No, do the voice.
I can't.
Okay. I'm George Lucas. I made Star Wars.
So lazy. And so the other thing that I genuinely like about Star Wars or the prequels, the scene. The pair of a pair scene, not the pair scene where he has the
Yeah.
The pair.
Oh my god.
I do like that.
Cuts the hair and like sends it back, and then she like.
That was good. That was really good.
But the pair of scenes.
Yeah,
Taylor's just
where
like,
I don't get it.
Anakin finds his mom,
Oh yeah.
and it's the first time you're like,
oh,
fuck.
I read a novelization of that movie
Uh-huh.
where it talks about that. Well, it doesn't talk. It is that scene, and it talks about how in that moment he obviously wants to save her, and he can feel the force there,
Yeah.
and like all of this force energy, but he doesn't know how to channel it.
Uh-huh.
And that's not like specifically stated during the movie, but I feel like if they did, it would go a long way towards explaining what the connection there is. Like, I have all of this
And his
power.
longing,
How do I
his
use
longing
it?
to save the people he loves from death.
Right.
Because he is so powerful in the Force, he can feel it
Yeah.
when it leaves, and if you could just tap into that.
Yeah.
And then it's not the next scene, but it's like the next, like, or one after, right after that.
Right.
Where it's him and Padme.
Oh yeah.
And he's like,
yeah.
I went there and I did this. And Padme's like, oh my god, that's Anakin. And he's like, no, you don't understand. I didn't kill the men. I killed the women. I killed the children. I left no one alive.
Mm-hmm.
And Hayden Christensen does a great job.
Yeah.
For what he was allowed to
For
do.
what he was allowed to do.
Like that was probably his best scene in the trilogy. Cool. So that's
I would argue his best, that's probably his best scene. His best moment, though, I think is right after he kills Mace Windu.
Oh
And
yeah.
he drops to the floor and he's just, I don't know what to do.
Right.
It's like we're not
And
supposed to kill.
and Palpatine is like,
I know what to do.
Although
Lord Vader.
I want to say about that moment is like the one of the biggest like just broken moments
Yeah.
in the prequels is when because Anakin has just followed blindly everything that the Emperor is saying and being like the Emperor's like, we can cheat death and everything, I have this knowledge and everything, and as soon as he kills Mace Windu and takes his final turn to the dark side, and he's like sitting in front of him on his knees and he's just broken and everything, and the Emperor's just like, no one is able to bring people back from death, but with your help we can learn the secrets. He should have immediately been like, oh, you're a scam, and then killed him. Because instead he's just like, okay, I'm with you now. Instead of being immediately like, oh, you were lying to me this whole time? Fine, I'm not listening to you anymore. Like, that seemed a little weird that he just, like, went along with that completely.
And my final thing is Ewan McGregor.
Oh yeah.
Like, I never feel he's phoning it in.
Mm-mm.
There are moments where I know for sure, like, George Lucas is, like, messing like, with his performance, but I really feel he enjoyed every second of making these movies.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it.
It does come through.
Yeah.
Especially in the third one, where he's
Yes,
just like a
yeah,
joke
he's very-
line-o-matic.
Especially, at the beginning, when he's just like...
Well, even at the end, when Hayden Christensen is giving him nothing, because that's what George Lucas wants, but Ewan McGregor's, like, giving it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, oh.
You are my brother, Anakin! And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm actually feeling something, but only from you.
I don't know, his acting when he's torn apart and laying in the sand was not bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's being burned to death.
Yeah,
Very
when he's
convincing.
being burned to death.
I believe
you're
Hayden
being
Christensen is being burned in
to death,
lava.
yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder how all this sounds to somebody who's never seen the movie. Is it just
It's
insanity?
ridiculous.
It's weird.
It's like he's burned in lava, okay.
But I mean,
fine.
like, I'm interested in seeing
Yeah.
these prequels.
Yeah.
Like, the story just sounds awesome.
It does.
I'm so, like, afraid of, like, watching
I really
it,
want to
like,
bring you to. I really want to bring you to my side and hope that you like the prequels more than the other.
Well, I think she
I hope you
will.
do too, yeah.
What?
And then we can fight the world.
I think
Convenient
she will be
wording.
willing or able to forgive a lot of the things. I just can't.
Right.
Maybe that's what it is.
Maybe it's just like, because for me, part of the reason I don't like the prequels, I guess we can get into this, and you can answer your question in a second. But I just want to say,
Wow.
I just want to say, like, I just feel like the execution on those films is off, and people can make
Abysmal.
people can make cases for why it's bad or why it's good. Oh, it was good that this happened, or it was bad that this happened. But for me, it's just not well directed and not well written and not well produced films, and that's mainly it. It's what I feel.
Jordan,
Okay.
what do you like about the prequels?
My favorite thing about the prequels, and again, it pains me because I know what it could have been.
Yeah.
But the story of Anakin Skywalker,
Yeah!
start to finish,
Mhm.
watching the chosen child, the Jesus figure, fall from grace into the darkness.
Uh-huh.
It's beautiful. It's heartbreaking. It's amazing. Like, this is someone who is so motivated to save his mother and his wife and his children that he is willing to betray everything he's been taught his whole life just to save those people he cares about. That's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
I want that fucking story. And they didn't give it to me.
I guess that's why I really like Darth Vader, because I want that in a relationship, that you would turn against anything for me. As deep and
I mean,
stupid
yeah,
as that
and
is.
I want to cut in that scene where all those children are standing around and he like turns the lightsaber off.
That's such a hard. Every time I literally saw that scene, I looked over at Alex and I was like, "No, he didn't."
I was like, yeah.
No,
and
you
he
didn't.
was like talking about poorly executed. Literally 10 minutes ago in the film,
Yeah.
he's saying he must stand trial. We can't kill him here. He must stand trial.
Yeah.
This isn't the Jedi way to. I'm
To
a
be-
murder children.
To be fair, in defense, between those 10 minutes, a lot happened to him, and he went through a huge change. So,
And it was
I
10
allow
minutes
that.
to us, but how long
Oh, right.
in real time?
Hours. Only hours.
Still,
But, yeah, fuck, what was I going?
The
you
story
said
of
the story
Anakin.
of Anakin is beautiful.
No, it was something you said.
Said a lot.
a lot of things.
All part of my original vision.
All part of the original. Poorly executed, poorly made, poorly written, and all that.
Oh, no, it was actually what you said.
Oh.
But, like, it goes back into, like, last episode, when we were talking about, like, what I define a man to be.
Oh, yeah.
That
Yes.
selflessness.
Yeah.
He is throwing away his entire being into these people that he's lost. And, like, being someone who's lost a lot of people in my lifetime, I get that. I relate to that. That's why I care so much about Anakin Skywalker. That's why I care so much about Ben Solo in this
Right.
new trilogy. I want to see that story told right. Because it was there, and they just fucked it up.
Oh, Jordan, you're so deep. I love it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'll have you know that Padme did not appreciate the things that Anakin did.
No.
Yeah, what a selfish bitch.
What? Are you kidding?
I'm kidding.
Okay.
Completely kidding, guys.
So, all right.
Completely kidding.
So, how about this one? How do you guys feel about midichlorians?
I love them. It just makes sense.
Okay, here's why it doesn't make sense. Because
Stand still. I'm gonna throttle you.
yeah, okay. Here's
I was hoping somebody would bring up midichlorians.
Here's an explanation for why midichlorians are the worst thing to have in Star Wars. Because the Force is all about faith, it's all about feelings, it's all about emotion, and you cannot mix science with faith without creating narrative dissonance. Sometimes that's the intention. I don't believe that it was during the prequels. I think the idea of trying to rationalize and explain something that is specifically and deliberately created to not be explained is just a misstep.
Well, I think what they did was in the original trilogy, they set it up to be a faith-based thing.
Let's not. Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about prequels, and I was like, let's not say they.
Right, the prequels
They
was
set it
all
up.
one man.
They set it up to try and be a faith-based thing because then you could have skepticism.
Yeah.
Then you could have something for Luke to fight against this forgotten way of life.
It's why his
However, oh, sorry.
I was going to say his story arc in the first movie, because we can talk about like the original vision. Like, did he plan on making more than just one movie? I don't believe that he did. I think it was always just going to be, here, let's make Star Wars, and then it was popular, so they made sequels. But the original movie, the first one, Luke's story arc was about turning the computer off and firing based on the Force. It was about faith. It was about I don't believe he went from a person who did not believe in the Force or in this higher energy or anything,
and
himself through extension, to believing in this sort of thing and like putting it on faith that he could do it, and it pays off for him. That's why that was such an effective story arc.
But then I think what happened is George Lucas got to the prequel trilogy, and he was like, you know what? Why Anakin Skywalker? Why was he Darth Vader? Why this child?
Yeah.
Well, because he was special. He was born so much more connected to the Force.
Yeah, he was more
Well,
powerful.
shit,
how do
than
we
the Force.
show that physically?
Yes.
Shit, if the Force is a faith-based thing, then who would have more faith than a devout Jedi Knight or a Jedi man? It can't be that anymore. It has to be something measurable.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, I argue that midichlorians don't automatically negate the original idea of faith. Because, for example, there's the idea that, like, you have the midichlorians, right? But you have to actively use them.
Yeah.
And so if, say, people still have them, but they don't believe in the ability to use them, it's like impulse control. If you listen to your impulses, they'll keep coming up. But if you deny them constantly, they just kind of stop happening.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that same thing. Like, it's there, they're just actively not using it, and so it's kind of like that, just gathering dust.
And here's a point I'd like to make on that. That's great. I love that. That's not what was written, and that isn't what was shown.
Right.
And that's the problem.
I agree. We can argue for it to, like, be continuity, but there was not continuity in the writing.
It just wasn't.
We are now patching it together because
we're trying to
need
defend
to.
it in a way that...
Right.
So part 2?
Part 2, what is something that you don't like about the original trilogy? Who wants to go first?
May I?
Yes.
The Luke and Leia kissing scene.
Uh-huh.
Not because the brother and sister, because the idea behind it is leading man and leading woman.
Yeah.
There is no narrative reason for them to kiss other than he is the leading man and she is the leading woman.
Right.
I remember feeling that when I watched it.
I hate that shit.
Why
Like,
kissing?
yeah.
Well, there's another reason, too. Creating this false love triangle.
Yeah.
And
Right.
George Lucas, fuck you. You did not intend for them to be twins.
No.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
You absolutely did not.
Right. He'll say it was all part of my original vision, but it absolutely
Bullshit.
was not. No. That's why I make that say that and make that
And
voice
if it
and do that
was-
because it's such a joke.
if it was, George Lucas needs to see some people. He has some urges he should really get in check.
However, if this is like the one thing he actually did
Think of
when he wrote or when he was trying to write the treatment with Lord Kasdan for this and that movie.
Yeah.
George, we can't have them kiss. They're brother and sister. Yeah, but they don't know that.
That does make sense.
But never mind. I just threw up my whole point. Leia, we're brother and sister. I know. What? I suppose I've always known.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because literally every single time, no matter who I'm with, every single time I watch it, I'm like, always? Did you always know?
Did you know when your tongue was down his throat? Like,
Yeah, because I can think of exactly
a couple
one
of
moment
scenes
when
ago,
I probably didn't.
Last episode. Yeah.
Or maybe she's just like into that. Who's to say?
I mean,
Like,
he did convince her not to wear underwear because there's no underwear in space. George Lucas, Carrie Fisher. It was a whole thing.
Okay.
So she didn't wear a bra.
Yeah.
Except for that one time when that's all she wore.
Speaking of that, I'll give mine of what I don't like about this.
I feel like it's related.
Yeah. I don't like Carrie Fisher. Period.
Yeah.
I think Leia could have been just a more fun and strong character had it not been Carrie Fisher who was portraying her.
Yeah.
What is it about Carrie Fisher that you...
Her just demeanor. I truly think that how Leia was written was not as abrasive. Yes, abrasive, but not as abrasive.
Will somebody get this big walking carpet out of my way?
Yeah, like as abrasive as that Carrie Fisher threw out there.
Right.
And I think she's god awful to look at, personally, but...
Yeah.
I would like to pose a theory on why you feel that way.
Go ahead.
I think George Lucas, being George Lucas, tried to write like that family-friendly, quick-line comedy in there.
Uh-huh.
But Carrie Fisher, being a well-trained actress, did not do that because that's gaudy and campy.
And also from that movie.
Right.
Yeah.
So instead, she took it the other way, and instead of making it like, hey, get this carpet out of my way, I am moving.
I've got
please.
stuff to do,
Almost like
guys.
any one of her lines could have like swear words in it and it would feel exactly the same.
Mhm.
Right,
Yeah.
because
This
they were
fucking
written to be
carpet.
terrible jokes,
Yeah.
and she was like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
She's what we would call bad director proof.
Can you get this carpet out of my way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I
Maybe
love
that's-
that Leia can be this.
but I agree with you.
sassy,
There is
just
like more stuff that could have been, and it's perfectly valid that you didn't like her treatment of
Yeah.
it.
And I'm glad that you said that she's very unattractive because I feel that way.
She's so
It makes like the entire love story between Han and Leia not hard to believe because anyone can love anyone, but just like I don't feel it the way like I would feel other love stories because
She
it's like
is
like-
70s pretty.
oh yeah, very much so. With that coke nail.
She's non-sexually pretty, like...
Yes.
She's...
Yes.
She
Yeah.
doesn't have much sex appeal, but like to me, everything. I think she's beautiful. Like I just do. Like
And I
don't know.
I didn't even. I saw Star Wars before I even saw Indiana Jones, and what Harrison Ford and whoever played Marion, whatever her name is,
Karen Allen.
yeah. Just like if they could have had her be Leia, would have been like perfect. Because Marion Ravenwood is exactly what I want Leia to be, and it's so close. It's so close because it's still abrasive, yet it's sexy and fun and.
Literally blowing my mind right now.
I mean, I like the idea that Carrie Fisher is just kind of like they're like more like Leia. Leia herself is just more like an average-looking woman.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I do think that's
but
important.
it's just weird
Yeah.
because like Padme is like supposed to be one of the most beautiful
Padme
women
didn't
in all of.
exist.
Yeah.
Well, not at the
But
time.
Padme's
Like,
Natalie
when-
Portman.
Well,
when they made the prequels.
true.
So yeah,
Yeah.
That was your answer.
So yep.
Good.
Yeah, so
I really don't like talking about people's ability to capture a role based on their attractiveness.
You're right.
I don't.
Well, those were two totally different things. One, I don't think
Like, you can
be two that.
You can be like hard to look at, but a great actor.
Yeah, there's
And
tons of them.
I mean, Jeff Daniels. Not a handsome
Yeah.
man. A
A
fantastic
phenomenal
fucking
actor.
which one is
Yeah.
Daniels, Big Lebowski or Dumb and Dumber?
Dumb
Dumb
and
and
Dumber.
Dumb and Dumber. Okay, just making sure. I always get them mixed.
Like, not a traditionally attractive man. I would watch him in anything.
He is so good.
amazing.
He's very versatile too.
He is. Oh yeah.
So-
what was The Martian?
The fucking newsroom. I mean, from Dumb and Dumber to the newsroom?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So
Blackbird? I'd have paid good money to see that.
I would have paid a lot of money to see that.
But hey, Star Wars, yeah.
No.
So that's I get that though. Like I'm with you. What about you? Or you?
Oh, okay.
were you?
There are two things I don't like about the prequels. One's a specific moment, the other's just a general. I don't.
Like the original trilogy?
What?
You said
Yeah, you said prequel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
Whatever the movies I saw.
I was confused too, but I was like,
Sorry.
did not follow that.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to say prequels.
That's okay.
I meant to
That's
say
okay.
That's
what.
fine.
Yeah.
Go on yourself.
I don't like cheesy things if they're not satirical.
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't help it.
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate cheesy movies if they're not poking fun at something. But at the same time, I didn't hate Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like, I liked it.
Right.
But there were some times where it was just so cheesy that I just I can't right now.
Like what? Do you have any specific examples?
I really don't.
I know.
See, that's my next thing.
That's like a classic.
I hate it.
And I love that.
Yeah.
To me, that doesn't read as cheese to me.
No, not
That's
to
not.
me.
No, I don't
Yeah,
hate
that
it 'cause
doesn't
it's
read
cheesy.
I think it's cheese now because it's been done.
Because so many people say
so
it to
many
each
people
other.
have done that.
I don't hate it because it's cheesy. I hate it because Han is just an asshole.
Oh, he is.
And I feel like if that were me, and like I'm about, because honestly, for all he knows, he's about to die right now.
Right.
And he apparently loves her too.
He does,
But that's Leia and Han's
But
like
he
relationship.
does. But
Yeah.
still, I don't think
It is-
that matters. I think if you're dying and the person you love says they love you, you say you love them too. I don't care if
Yeah.
you're trying to save face
No,
or anything.
I totally think you would
You
pull
want-
you would pull a
No.
joke, but like,
I hate it.
If I were
I
about
hate
to
it so
die,
much.
in real life, but this is only because of Star Wars, if I were about to die and Jodie said, I love you, I would
you
say,
literally would say,
I
I know, and I would be like,
But you would say
He
it
loves
because
you.
it's a joke from a movie that you both love.
Yes,
Yeah.
and she would
This
know what that means.
Is literal life and death, and they
Yes.
hadn't even really professed it to each other yet.
And they had not
anyway.
seen Star Wars at the time, so it's not like they could reference it.
I don't know. I hate it. I hate Han Solo. I think he's like one of the worst people ever. I just despise him.
Wow.
And I hate that moment.
made a lot of
much.
Eminem movies.
Nice.
I hate it.
I
I
wanna-
hate it so much.
So
I like
wanna-
Indiana Jones a lot better than Han Solo, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I want to make a point that Han Solo is a dick, and that's the point of the character. But
Oh, I know.
I think a lot of people look up to him and that relationship, which is dangerous because
I was
same
same way as
That
Joker
is
and
a
Harley Quinn is
one-night
really bad
stand,
to
like physical
look up
attraction.
to.
Really, like Han and Leia aren't a beautiful couple. They are just two
Ships
horny
passing in the
20-somethings
night,
that are
yeah.
attracted to each other. Like,
Yeah.
hey, we're about to go into this war, and we kind of like each other. Let's just like be a thing.
let's do it.
I mean, if they knew they would create the second Darth Vader, would they do it? Probably not.
Probably not.
I mean,
Who's to say?
It is Han Solo, though. You never know. You might just be like, you know what?
I don't believe in.
I don't believe in the Force.
Yeah. So
I believe that. I believe that 100%.
I was reading this article that was talking about like male, why men have such a bizarre idea of consent when it comes to sexual relations, and it was because one of the many points that they were making was all of the role models that men have had in popular media are not great role models.
No,
Like
not at all.
look at the scene that everybody thinks of as super romantic in Empire Strikes Back when he is pushing her against the wall. She cannot move or leave anywhere, and she's constantly saying, "No, I don't want this," but he's saying, "You do. You like me because I'm a scoundrel."
Oh
and then he
my
kisses her,
Ugh,
and it's like,
Jesus.
and it's like. On the one hand, I get it, but on the other hand, I get it. Like, I get what's going on here, and it's
Because,
not
like,
okay.
I see that, and I think about real life, and I'm like, if there weren't a camera there,
Yeah.
like, and these, like, if it was very clear that these two, like, I don't, aside from the sexual assault,
Yeah.
but, like,
It is romantic because she actually does want it.
Yeah.
right.
If that wasn't...
Which is why I don't like that. I think those are moments that work in real life that don't work in film because it can convey the absolute wrong idea.
Or like in movies when they depict like perseverance from a male like in pursuing women.
Right, right. It's like men- you
oh
should-
wow, he's so romantic, he doesn't stop. It's like
Yeah,
that's not romantic.
stalker,
That's
you
creepy.
don't
It's like it's like at this point the trope of making fun of this thing is a trope in and of itself. But like Edward from Twilight that's not romance. That's horror. Like that he's just watching her sleep. That's not okay.
To
A better written Twilight.
What?
That would be a better written Twilight. Like actually,
Oh,
like,
if they, like,
magnifying
putting a
the
point
horror.
on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like it's
well,
not
damn,
okay
with
that you're doing
Jacob too.
this.
Then
to bring around that same point to like other movies though, and like the prevalence of that problem.
Yeah.
Revenge of the Nerds thought to be like this great
Oh
comedy.
yeah.
Yeah.
A
Hey,
dude
and
puts
he was-
on a mask and has sex with someone.
What kind of
and
mask? A Darth Vader mask.
Yeah, and she doesn't
all
know
that.
it's him. She thinks it's her boy. That's rape.
Yeah, no.
literally.
Totally.
It's not even like it's rape if you think about it. No, it's
Yeah,
just
that's
what
just
rape
rape.
is.
That's
You are having sex with a person who does not know or
they are
wants you to have.
consenting to an idea that is not
Not true.
actually happening.
consenting to sex with their actual boyfriend.
Yeah,
No.
it's
And then the fucking nonsensical response that, oh, she liked it, so it was okay,
So
and
it's
like
like,
she's with him now.
no.
No!
Louis C.K. has a great bit that, like, he said he took a girl home after a set once.
I love that one.
Yeah, and he was just... And
Should I just rape you on the off chance that you're into it?
it was like... he was, like, trying to initiate, and she was like, no, I don't want this, so he's like, okay, I'll stop. And then the next day, or like a couple days later, he saw her again, and she was like, I actually wanted you to keep going. I was, like, into that. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not going to rape you on the off chance that you're into that kind of thing. It's great. It's good stuff. So, Star Wars.
Yeah.
So, that's a problem. Where were we?
Are we still going?
Where were we?
I think it's
We were on trailers.
You were saying what
I
you
was
did.
just saying that I
about the-
despise I Love You I Know thing, and I think it's utter shit. Anyway, what's yours?
Do you want
I hate it.
to talk more about that, or is
Not
it just...
really.
Okay. Oh, yeah, you
It's
already
just
said.
horrible.
I think that
I was gonna
what
say
all
that
of this
entire
is.
thing.
That's
Yeah.
Well,
that's horrible.
Something I don't like about the original.
Do you have one?
I mean, other than some of the things we've talked about before.
Yeah.
Ewoks. Apparently.
Yeah. But, like, ultimately I don't have that much of a problem with them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I still watch the movie and I love it.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
You can tear apart a movie that you love. I do it all the time.
No, because I could not find a single thing wrong with Jurassic Park. no.
I can tear that movie apart.
Oh my god.
And, but I love that movie.
I can't,
It's one of my
yeah.
favorite movies.
Jurassic Park?
But
What's wrong with Jurassic Park?
Just the
No, we
leaps
cannot.
and logic.
We cannot right
Also-
now. I'll
But
lose
Star
my
Wars,
shit, yeah.
we'll have a live riff tracks by me one day.
Because I don't think there's anything wrong with Jurassic Park either. I think that's a perfect film.
Yes, of course.
There's only one, like, plot hole. Not even plot hole, it's just, like... The
Jurassic Park 3.
the T-Rex, like, the T-Rex paddock having a cliff there all of a sudden. Well, that's not, like, a fault of the movie, because they clearly knew.
Maybe.
But anyway, Star Wars.
I'm honestly really trying to think, and I know there are things, and it's not like I really can't think of anything wrong with these movies. I know there are.
It's just you're not thinking
It's,
them.
I'm not.
It's like you're blocking them out because you love these films. Because that's how it is with
I mean, that's
Jurassic
the thing.
Park.
I've also kind of talked about
A lot of them.
a lot of them. Like for me, the pacing of we've talked about that. The pacing of A New Hope is just my god. And so by the time it ends, you're like,
Okay.
oh,
I think,
we're supposed to care, and we do.
I think 6 is worse in that regard. It's
Yeah.
like a very slow movie,
Yes.
just because there's so little story in 6.
I want so much more out of that final confrontation with Luke and Vader and the Emperor.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of fun talking about that scene more than I do enjoy that scene, watching it.
Yeah.
Because there was that moment where the Emperor is really trying to get Luke to strike, because I have a theory about him and Plagueis, but I'm not going to talk about that. Trying to get him to strike, which is what he wants. Luke goes to do it, and Vader stops him. Earlier, in the movie before, in Empire, he says, "Let's do this." Why in the hell would he stop Luke from doing that?
2 reasons, I think. One, he doesn't want his son to turn to the dark side.
That's actually my point.
Okay.
It's less about Vader being a loyal lapdog as it is more about
And the other was
Anakin
going to be
and Palpatine not realizing it's more about Anakin and Luke than it is about Vader and Luke.
Right.
But that's the thing. But you watch it, and I watch it, and I'm like, yeah, okay.
My point there is like the whole thing is strike me down and take your final steps onto becoming a Jedi. In my opinion, completing the action is less important than attempting to do it.
Yes.
He swings his lightsaber at the Emperor with the intention to kill the Emperor. In my mind, he does take the turn to the dark side.
Though,
That's exactly
I
what
think
Yeah.
there's a difference between trying to kill someone and being stopped. Yes, there's thought there and you attempt to do it. And then actually seeing yourself kill someone.
Sure.
And what that does. And I think
I guess, but he was ready to do it. He was prepared to take a life in this moment, and I think that was, it's a weird moment of nobody in the movie talks about, it's like, we're going to talk, you straight up try to kill the Emperor, right? Like, you're a Sith now? Like, is that a thing? Because it's weird. Cool. So did you have any?
Yeah, he started us.
Oh,
I did, but I do have another one I can insert.
Yeah.
So the first scene of Star Wars, period.
With
The scroll?
Nope.
no, with the two droids on the ship.
Yup.
Or
And how they just escape.
Oh yeah, there's no life forms on board.
There's this pod. No life forms. I mean, we do live in a universe that has robots. Maybe we should just, like, blow it up anyways? Like, it would literally take us nothing to do this.
We don't know about the plans themselves. We don't know what they were. If it was like a flash drive, or if it was just a line of code that she transferred, or what it was,
or whatever.
Yeah, but it's not organic. It's not a life form. So whatever, they could have just set even if it was just a CD or a floppy disk, they could have just set it in the escape pod, hit launch, and then let it go. So it's just the hugest, okay, sure.
But the idea is that R2-D2 is going to find Obi-Wan Kenobi. But, that's an escape pod.
Yeah.
You invaded them, and they sent out an escape pod. Blow that bitch up.
Right.
What kind of all-powerful empire are you?
A stupid one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't believe for a second that they wouldn't have done that.
Right. I completely agree.
So what's yours?
Mine is, and
How are we on space?
There's tons of it. And
we're-
Star Wars.
We've been going for an hour and a half, so we'll wrap up soon. We have 2 hours of thing on here, and I don't want the episode to be more than 2 hours. So my thing, and we've talked a lot about this. It's just basically the retconning that has to happen to make it all one continuity. When, and we've mentioned, clearly there was no intention of anything beyond the first movie.
I think maybe he had general story
Sure,
ideas. Here's what the story was kind of before this movie, and here's where it might go after.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's kind of like, I have backstory for these characters, so I know how Darth Vader became Darth Vader, and I think the idea was only ever, let's make this one film, and then sure, there are ideas like, what would a sequel look like? I don't even need to think about that, but just because everyone does that, whenever I think of I have this idea for a movie where there's this guy learns he's a superhero, but then he dies, but it's in a sequel, we could bring him back to life, but no, that's stupid. We're just going to make this one movie or whatever. So, the ways the second and third movies in the series have to look back and be like, oh no, we were lying about that. One of the biggest ones is, Darth Vader betrayed and murdered your father, and then in episode 6, it's hey, you told me that Darth Vader betrayed and murdered my father. It's
He
from a
did,
certain point of view, what I told you was true. It's no, go die. Everything what you're saying right now is just, you lied to me. There's no angle you can take here. You lied to me.
And all he had to say, honestly, if Lucas really thought about it, he didn't have to actually retcon that.
Right.
I was protecting you from the truth because I didn't want you to follow the same path.
He could have just said, yeah, I lied to you. Own it. Yes, I lied to you.
That being said, I do believe Darth Vader was meant to be his father from the beginning.
Do you? Why?
Darth Vader, Dark Father.
I think it's just a coincidence, though. I do think it's just a coincidence.
I don't think that Lucas is that bad.
I do.
That sounds very intentional to me.
That's literally German for Dark Father.
Sure. But Vader is just a cool sounding word. He could have just thought Darth Vader, and then maybe somebody said, hey, maybe that's how he got the idea for it, is, hey, that means this, and he's like, I can do that. Or completely independent. It's just a coincidence. I believe
because why would Palpatine name him Dark Father?
Yeah.
Because he had two fucking children.
But he didn't know that.
The Emperor knew that. The Emperor went after Luke because it's Anakin's son.
Yeah, but
no. When he named, in episode 3, when he named Anakin Darth Vader.
Again, we can't take that into account because when Lucas creating Vader, because that stuff didn't.
Okay.
But no, I'm thinking about that.
Yeah,
during episode 3.
What was Palpatine thinking?
Padme was already pregnant.
Yeah, but
he totally knew. He totally knew.
Yes, because
I feel like he knew
she
of the Force.
was.
The Emperor also knew that
because
he
he was
didn't actually
scared.
die by Vader. He knows.
Yeah.
He knows all that shit.
Because he can read.
He can
read Anakin's mind. Yeah.
Or at least feel the Force and everything.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah. So mine is just the backwards thinking and the tripping over yourself, putting your foot in your mouth, trying to retcon things into existence and writing yourself into a corner and then trying to write out of it. And it's just
No, I do agree that that's a prevalent problem.
Yeah. Like we talked about the brother-sister thing. It's like, I guarantee, even if you had the idea for it, you wouldn't have written these characters to be this way if you had known this from the beginning. I guarantee it.
Because it was the 70s, and you just don't do that shit. Even today, that's a subject that, like, mass media consumption, which is something George Lucas spent an unacceptable amount of time worrying about, you just don't write that story.
Yeah, right. Maybe in the future, like, there'll be room for that kind of thing.
Well, like, right now, for example, Neil LaBute writes that kind of shit sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
He's a great
so
writer.
does Railroad Martin.
George Railroad Martin. Right. Well, I think that's
Right.
that's the biggest foray. And that story, that idea that came up in the first book, that came out in 1996.
Right.
But it just wasn't popular.
20 years after. And even then, like, people aren't ready for that discussion.
Right. So,
I think I got a good way to wrap up this. I think we should all go
I like how you
around
said that
and
quietly.
say your favorite quote from any Star Wars movie.
Well, now it's "You Will Try," but I want to think of a better one.
No, think of the one that you like. You
I don't want to say "I love you." I know because of what we just talked about,
I have mine.
but I don't want to take two. That's one of them.
I have one.
Go ahead, Con.
Thank you.
What are you talking about? What is that? That's not a Star Wars line. No, it isn't. That's a word. That's a thing people say.
Give the context.
Which
Oh, it's
movie? What
useless.
scene?
Episode 7. After the death.
Oh,
Thank
Ooh.
you.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good shit.
That is very Star Wars. I don't care what you say.
Well, it's not a Star Wars line though. It's not from Star Wars, but
The theme surround. Yeah, absolutely.
the context is,
Yeah.
yeah. But the words are not.
You got one, Jordan?
Come back to me, I gotta think about it.
Okay,
I don't remember that.
what's your second one?
Sorry.
I hate you.
I can't.
I have another one if you.
Well, there's a million. Come
I
on,
know,
guys.
But I this is actually my favorite one.
Okay.
Who are you calling scruffy looking?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's scruffy looking?
I got it.
Okay.
The first line of, I believe it's Common, spoken in episode 7,
Oh,
is,
yeah.
"This should set things right again." I love the meta context that, like, it's supposed to fix the prequels. I'm like, that is so beautiful. That is just saying, you know what? We fucked up, but we're gonna fix
We
it.
done fucked up. Come on,
And then they
Alejandro,
did.
you can do it.
I got one.
Okay.
So, the scene is Darth Vader and Luke are fighting for the first time on Bespin. This is episode 5. And,
Do not
Luke,
say, "No, Luke, I am your father."
no.
That's not the line.
It's when
Or
Luke
is
No.
It is.
No, he doesn't
No.
say Luke
He
during
doesn't
that line.
say.
Oh,
It does not matter.
sorry.
But when he falls into the pit that turned Han into carbonite, and Darth Vader goes, "All too easy," and then flips the switch to turn it on. That's my favorite Star Wars line, because that's cheesy. That's just a moment where it's like, Darth Vader would not say
And
that.
can we speak to like that moment? Like I like it's something that works on paper, like of a script.
Sure.
That doesn't necessarily work if you don't execute it properly. So like he does it. Luke shoots up with his Jedi like jumping,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
and Vader goes, "Impressive."
Yeah.
And then he swings his lightsaber at Luke, who's hanging, but all Luke does is move his legs out of the way, and Vader goes, "Most impressive."
Obi-Wan has taught you well.
I like to think that, like, in the script it said, yeah, he jumps, grabs a hold, and then Vader, like, he's already holding on to something, and Vader swings, and Luke, like, jumps to another thing.
Or like, moves
Ooh,
out
wow,
of the
okay,
thing.
yeah. A feat of acrobatics gets him out of the way of the lightsaber.
Yeah.
Most impressive.
Taylor, you got a quote that
Um,
particularly sticks out?
I can't remember what it is, but like it's. God damn it! I can't remember anything I watched. They're gonna get eaten by that sand monster or something.
Okay.
Yes.
And there's like Jabba's like on his little like ship thing,
Mhm.
and I think right before shit goes down and like things get reversed, like someone says something, and I can't remember what they said, but like I remember going, huh,
What?
remember
what-
like just kind of
When
chuckling
they're in
to
the
myself.
sandworm?
It's like right before.
Is this where they're like putting Luke on the
Maybe.
platform to like jump in?
And it's like right as they become aware that like, oh, maybe it's not going to be this easy for us. Like right before things like take a turn, like someone says something where it's kind of like they're self-aware that like stuff's going to happen. Like I can't. I'm so sorry. I can't remember.
I got a bad feeling about this.
I don't know.
Because that's like a line.
That's just a Han line.
Yeah.
No, not Han. It was like someone on.
No, not Han. She
Sorry,
hates Han.
I hate Han.
I have no idea.
I don't know.
I don't
It's
know.
someone on like Jabba's team.
But I
people.
have an actual one.
They say
where I
something.
did. Darn it.
I do too.
I have
I'm sorry.
two.
I can't quote anything from these movies.
My favorite scene to watch in any of them is when they meet General Grievous.
Oh, yeah.
And General Grievous is like, "Oh, Anakin Skywalker, you're younger than I expected."
Yeah.
And then Anakin Skywalker just looks up and he's just like, "General Grievous, you're shorter than I expected."
Yeah.
Because it's just so snarky.
Good clap back.
Yeah. And then I also love, and I say this all the time, Padme's famous line, "You're going down a path I cannot follow."
Oh,
It's one of my favorites.
Oh, I am about to tear my hair out. Because I literally had one I was about to say it.
Look,
I
sir,
think-
droids.
I think my all-time favorite Star Wars line is,
Oh my god.
I can't do a Wookiee impression. That's it.
I had a serious one. I've been making jokes this whole time.
I love anything 3PO says on the back of Chewie
Honestly,
in
you know
Empire.
what?
Anything
Yeah.
3PO says just while he's backpacking on the back of Chewie.
Yeah.
That's
I like how they strapped R2-D2 like sideways to like their hovercraft or whatever you call it. So they're going
right. When they're on Luke's land speeder, R2 is strapped on
Oh,
his
yeah.
side.
It's like a Christmas tree.
Nice. Yeah.
I don't know the specific line, but one moment that I really loved, I don't remember if it was in the Clone Wars animated, like the original animated series, or if it was actually in the movies, but after Qui-Gon Jinn dies, and Obi-Wan has to become a Jedi Master to train Anakin, he has to go into like that tree cave thing. And like, the scene is, he is not ready. He is terrified. And he says something along the lines of, I don't know if I'm ready. And then he goes in anyways. I'm like, that is like adulthood. That is
That's
literally
the perfect gift for adulthood.
that is literally the coming of age story.
I can feel the anger coming out of you that you can't remember this
so
line.
angry with myself. There was something I was going to say. Somebody say something else.
All the Trade Federation talk. It is a real highlight of the series. Like, the whole franchise is built on the foundation of that Trade Federation disagreement. And you can hate that as much as you want, but it will always be true. Interplanetary commerce started the Star Wars.
Wow. Way to bring us down. It's the Wilhelm scream. That's mine. All right. Thank you for listening. This has been a very special start. Oh, mine actual one was
Yay.
at the end of the movie when they said, "This truly has been a Star Wars." Thank you for listening. You can find me on Twitter at Peeves me at Mr. Spell it the long way, Red2342. That's at Mr. Red2342. Does anyone else have something they want to plug?
No.
Yeah, you never answered my question.
What was your question?
Who is the Star Wars?
Email us at peevesandcuespodcast@gmail.com. Twitter is at peevesandcues. Thank you for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, tell all your friends about the show. All that nonsense. Closing thoughts?